Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. The Sweet 16 kicks off tonight, and we're going to go through every game. I'm your host, Stuckey, and joining me, as always, are the crew from the three-man weave, Matt Cox, Guy McKeon, and Jim Root. Lot to get to today. Great games. Look, not a ton of upsets came out of last weekend, and that means you have a lot of marquee matchups today. We'll also check in with Darren Ravel on a market report. Gentlemen, I hope you're ready. Let's get right into the games. We'll go in chronological order. And we'll start with a matchup where the chalk did hold through the first two rounds. Gonzaga, the 1 seed, taking on 4 seed Arkansas. Bulldogs here, 9.5-point favorite, over-under, holding fairly steady around 155. Our leadoff hitter is warmed up, got his practice swings in. Matty Cox, throw it to you to kick things off. What are you seeing in this game?
Yeah, you mentioned the full game spread. I'm looking to chop that pretty close to in half with Gonzaga first half wager. Big reason here is matchup edge in terms of how well they cut against Arkansas's pressure extended defense. I think where Gonzaga thrives obviously is in transition, where they can probably have success as well. But I think more importantly, when they get into the half court, when they're not playing through Timmy, they're running that offense where there's just so many well-timed and well-orchestrated back cuts. We saw them eviscerate elite defenses throughout the year. I go back to the Duke game, one example against a more extended type of defense. That's the key here in this matchup for me. I'm focusing on first half, though, because we've seen Gonzaga come out a little sluggish to start in the first 2 rounds. I think they have that in the back of their mind. They don't want to get into danger zone again. They come out and punch Archie right in the mouth from the get-go. So Zag's first half -5.
Kyle, what are you saying?
I like Zag's full game, and Matt mentioned Arkansas's pressure defense, how important it is for them. Gonzaga had 7 turnovers against Georgia State and 7 against Memphis. That's impressive. This pressure defense from Arkansas is not going to phase Gonzaga's guards. They play extremely poised, and I'm not that impressed by Arkansas so far in this tournament. They haven't covered against the 12 seed, haven't covered against the 13 seed. Yeah, Gonzaga struggled with Memphis, but that's a team that's playing like a top 10, top 15 team right now. I don't think you're going to get much from Arkansas in this game. Even if Note gets to the basket, Gonzaga is the number 1 2-point percentage field goal defense in the country. That's repeatable. That's predictable. I like Gonzaga -9.5.
Yeah, Gonzaga, a 1 seed. It didn't have a true 1 seed path. I mean, Georgia State arguably should have been a 14 seed. And then you get Memphis, who's playing at a top 10 level with top 10 talent. Whereas Arkansas, 2 double-digit seeds, didn't really look that impressive. And the pressure numbers you mentioned, that's huge for me because I was like, Gonzaga doesn't face a ton of teams that are going to pressure them during the course of the season, especially during conference season. And they handled 2 defenses that can pressure you and only turned it over 7 times. So I think that's a really good sign for this particular matchup. Mr. Root, batting in the 3 hole. I hope you've had your coffee. I know you're out on the West Coast. Ready to rock. What are you seeing in this one?
Well, I envy the decisiveness of these two. I've gone back and forth on this game, particularly on the spread. I have a lean to the over. I think Gonzaga's lack of turnovers is going to help the efficiency. I know we have some boots on the ground out there. Our pal Rocco Miller was at the public practice, and Arkansas was working on transition defense. I don't think that's going to help that much. I think this is still going to be up and down. Gonzaga is tough to keep out of transition, even if it's the only thing you're focused on. So I think this will have some pace. Both teams have routes to points. I think Gonzaga can score inside. I think the Arkansas guards can beat Gonzaga's guards on the perimeter, get into the mid-range, make some floaters, some pull-up jumpers. But, I'm staying away at this point. Officially a pass for me. Maybe a slight lean to Arkansas, slight lean to the over for sure.
Yeah, this is a pass for me. I guess I would lean Gonzaga if I had to take it just for some of the matchup reasons. I mean, look, Gonzaga doesn't foul. Arkansas is very reliant on getting to the line. They obviously have handled pressure so far. They're great on the defensive glass. There's just a lot of things that don't bode well for Arkansas in this matchup. They're going to need Note, the good version of Note, and he has to stay out of foul trouble. Jalen Williams, the charge master, he's going to maybe need to draw a couple key charges on Timmy and or Chet. So, yeah, I'm probably staying away too, lean over, maybe lead Gonzaga. But I do think that this game should have a lot of runs back and forth. And a lot of times you see Arkansas come out slow and then they'll have a big run. I'm sure Gonzaga is going to have their run. So, look, lines are tight this time of year. If you don't love either side, but you're leaning that way, potentially wait live. You might get a better number at some point in the first half. All right, that'll do it for our first game. Let's move on to the second game of the night, which will tip about 20 minutes after Gonzaga Arkansas. It's another matchup of chalk holding. We have the with 4 seed Michigan taking on the 11 seed Michigan. The chalk did not hold. I'm mistaken. Versus the 2 seed Villanova. Villanova is a 5-point favorite here. Over under 135. I think this is a rematch of the women's game that we just saw. Really fascinating matchup here. You have Hunter Dickinson inside. How much damage can he do against the Villanova bigs? And then you have the Villanova guards against a sometimes leaky Michigan perimeter defense. You can go a lot of different ways here. Line's been holding steady, both the side and total for now. Back to our leadoff hitter, Matt. What are you seeing here?
Well, you mentioned it. It's not a chalky game, but if Michigan had been playing like this consistently from start to finish, it probably would be a battle of 2 high seeds. So you kind of have to reorient your perception on this Michigan team. Same holds for UNC in the opposite side of the bracket. Dickinson, we were all frustrated with the lack of interior touches he got at Colorado State, but then last game he came out, I think, was really a big focal point of the offense. I would assume to see a similar approach here inside from Juwan Howard and Phil Martelli, and that does give them a slight edge on that side of the floor. All that said, I still lean Villanova. It's pretty simple for me. No official bet, but if you're going to take a side, I like betting on the better backcourt. Plain simple. And I think this game gets close down the stretch late. Villanova's elite free throw shooting, historically great free throw shooting, while sometimes I think that's overrated and already baked into the number. In a game of this magnitude, I think that does matter. So I would lean Nova -5.
Kai, you agree, or are you going to go the other way?
I'm going Michigan, guys. Michigan +5. And matchup-wise, I'm nervous about it. The size, the switchability of Nova's wings could be an issue for the smaller guards in Michigan. But look at Hunter Dickinson. Matt mentioned Colorado State. Every time he touched the ball inside, he scored. And I think he can do that again against Villanova. And I trust Juwan Howard in March. I mean, these narratives are kind of hit or miss, we'll say, if actually ringing true. But he's never not made an Elite Eight as a player or a coach. I think that's worth a little bit of something here, especially at +5, 2-possession game. I think Michigan can keep it close here, cover the spread, but ultimately go down into Villanova.
Yeah, maybe I just had a brain fart of saying the chalk help because Michigan seems to be in the Sweet 16 every single year over the past couple of years. Jim, what are you looking at here?
You mentioned a rematch of the women's game. It's also a rematch of the 2018 National Championship in San Antonio. I don't believe it's in the same building. I don't think it's actually in the Alamo Dome, but so down in the same city. Pretty tough one for me to decipher here. I was leaning over most of the week because I think both teams have a route to points, but I am a little concerned about the tempo. So I'm actually going to lock in Villanova -5. I know these guys were split here. I'll give the deciding vote towards the Wildcats. I just think the efficiency, the discipline, the switching defensively, it's not something that Michigan sees a ton in the Big Ten. So I think it might be a little tougher for them to prepare for. I think Jay Wright will have a solid plan for Dickinson. And part of it is going to be, yeah, I get it. Dickinson might have 25 or 30, but we're not going to let anybody else beat us. We're going to dig, but not double. And then in the other end, I think Nova can score kind of at will. Usually the guard post-ups are effective, and I think they'll be even more so against this Michigan smaller backcourt. So I'm going with the Wildcats -5 here.
Yeah, I would lean Villanova as well. I think that the Michigan PNR defense against ball handlers, which I think is like the 13th percentile per synergy, can get exposed here. I could see Gillespie having a big day. You mentioned, the post-ups and the inverted offense. I could see him having a number of key threes from the top of the key. I think that might end up being the difference. And then, Matt, I think you mentioned it with free throws. Look, if Villanova's up 3 to 4 late, and they're going to make every single free throw. I mean, this is probably the best free throw shooting team in the country, especially in the last minute or two of a game when they have, 90% free throw shooting guards that just seem to never miss. And that could, you could take a game from 3 up to 7 or 9 in a flash with Michigan fouling. So that could end up being the difference as well. Should be a good one. All right, let's take a little halftime break here before we get to the 2 later games and check in with Mr. Darren Ravel on a market report.
Well, it is a great Thursday morning. Why? Because March Madness is back again, and I'm going to take you through the sports books and talk about the splits that we have, what is coming in. So we start with Arkansas Gonzaga, -9 Gonzaga. It's the most bet on game at BetMGM. What's funny here is at most of the books, if you look at the bets, it's strongly on Arkansas. But then when you look at the handle, it's on Gonzaga a little bit. So WinBet 52% on the Bulldogs, BetMGM 58%, PointsBet 59%. Then let's take a look at Duke, Texas Tech. Duke 1.5 point dog here. almost all the money is on Duke. BetMGM 78%, FanDuel 66%, DraftKings 66%, PointsBet 63%. So despite being an underdog, I think given how close it is, people think that Coach K's career will not, in fact, come to an end tonight. Michigan, Villanova, depends on where you get it, plus 4.5, 5 for Michigan being the underdogs, and all the money everywhere is on the Wildcats of Villanova, 70% at DraftKings, 73% at both BetMGM and PointsBet, and 64% at FanDuel. And finally, we have Houston, Arizona. Arizona, 1.5-point favorite. Depends on what book you get to. This is close enough that if they have big bets, it could swing either way. So, for example, BetMGM has 75% of the money on Zona, but both FanDuel and PointsBet have money on Houston. In fact, 75% of the money is on Houston at PointsBet. And if there is one total that the public seems to like, it's Michigan Villanova, the over of 135.5 at most sports books. More than 70% of the money is on that total and that over. I wish everyone a great day tonight, and March Madness is back for us again. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Darren. All right, let's move on to the final two games of Thursday night. And we'll start with Texas Tech Duke, where the chalk did hold, the seeds did hold, the 3 versus the 2 seed here. Texas Tech is actually a small favorite here, 1-point favorite. Over under sitting at 137. Leadoff hitter, back to you, Maddie. What are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, there's a myriad of matchup points that I'll save for you guys to hit. I know I'm going to spoil some of the Texas Tech ammo here, but I'll just hit the broader narrative angle why I think my gut is screaming Texas Tech. I guarantee you these Red Raiders are sitting home just salivating at this Duke narrative, Coach K, last hurrah. Just the way this team's wired and the way we've seen them respond to big moments this year. You look at the Kansas games, you look at the Texas game, the return of Chris Beard. It's just a bunch of dudes that feed off the collective energy of how they play, and that will just fuel their defense to a different level. And that gap suffocating defense, I think, is the ultimate kryptonite to Duke's offense, the way they get back in transition. Everything points to Tech here from a matchup perspective and just spot perspective. I'm taking Texas Tech -1. Not going to overthink this one.
Hopefully they're not sitting at home. They have a game tonight. Hi.
Hotel.
Are you in agreement with the Red Raiders?
I am. Right team is favored here. Texas Tech -1 is a play for me. Defense. Best defense in the country. Coaching, I think Mark Adams is a better coach than Coach K. Duke cannot simply roll the balls out and play on offense and expect to beat Texas Tech. They can't just out-athlete them. They can't just out-talent them. We've seen this Texas Tech defense take down big foes all season long. I'm a big Red Raider fan tonight.
Jim, you gonna make it 3 for 3?
Make it thrice. We had some conflicting opinions on the first couple of games, but we are all in on the Red Raiders tonight. And Duke just hasn't seen a defense anywhere close to this. The only top 40 defense per KenPom they've seen was Gonzaga, and that was all the way back in November. Chet wasn't really quite himself yet then. Now they're taking on the number 1 defense in the country. They haven't seen a pressure defense like this either. The turnover rate of the Red Raiders, I think, is going to make Duke uncomfortable. It's not really I don't think Duke's going to turn the ball over a ton. I just think the pressure, the way they get into you defensively, force you to put the ball on the floor, but then help into gaps. And it's just not something Duke is familiar with. I don't think Coach K is going to roll out any special plan. I think it's more of a, hey, we just overwhelm people with talent offensively. I don't buy that happening against Texas Tech. On the other side of the court, maybe a little worried about Texas Tech scoring, but Duke's defense has been in shambles. So, yeah, I'm Red Raiders -1 with these fellas.
I'm not going to make it 4 for 4, but I'm not going to go the other side. I'm actually going to go with the under here. Look, I mean, Duke does have the individual talent. They have the shooting, right? You're going to have to shoot outside of Texas Tech. You're going to have to make threes. You're going to have to make individual plays in ISO. Duke does have that ability. But I do agree that they're going to go through droughts. They're going to struggle seeing this type of defense and this caliber of defense for the first time all year, basically. But on the other side, I don't necessarily think that Texas Tech can expose some of the issues that we've seen with Duke's defense. I think they'll go through their own droughts. So I just think this is going to be played in the half court. These two teams played back in, I think, 2019 on a neutral court. Absolute grinder. I think we're going to see something similar tonight. It's very scary because Duke unders are petrifying with the way that they've been playing on defense and then their individual talent on offense. I don't know. Maybe they've gone over, but just off the top of my head, maybe 7 of the last 8. But I think this one plays out where Texas Tech is not going to fully take advantage of Duke's defensive issues off the ball. And I think Texas Tech's defense will obviously hold its own. Now, number 1 in adjusted defensive efficiency per KenPom. Jim, I'll throw it back to you. If you had to go either over or under, where you going?
Under as well. I think it'll be kind of a crawl. My concerns about both teams' offenses against both teams' defenses are, I think, valid. And I think maybe going for a little of the first half too, just so you avoid any overtime possibility, any free throw possibility. So yeah, I'd split my bet and go under.
Yeah, I will be doing the same. All right, let's move on to our final game of the night, and it's between Houston and Arizona. Arizona escaping TCU in overtime last week in thrilling fashion. You have the 1 seed here over the 5 seed. They're only a 1.5 point favorite. Right? Market's a lot more efficient than they used to be. Over under sitting 145.5 right now. Really, I can't wait for this one. Matt, do the Wildcats get it done, or does Houston move on? What do you see here?
Yeah, I feel like covering my eyes every time I fade Houston, but I'm going to do it again here with Arizona. You look at that TCU game last round, and you can basically analyze that from 2 different perspectives. One is TCU exposed maybe a lack of physicality with Arizona's front line, especially with the way the Wildcats went a little smaller late in the game. However, I look at that more from that was the test I think Arizona needs as a precursor leading up to this Houston game, right? Houston, TCU, top 2 offensive rebounding teams in the country. I think the Eddie Lampkin 1-2 punch is just what Christian Coloco, Omar Ballo, and Tubelis needed to sort of prepare themselves for what should be a brute rock fight up front. And in general, I just think this is a great time to quote unquote buy low on Arizona. I think people are short selling them after that TCU game. They're questioning whether or not they're the real deal. They have some injuries. But you just look at this price, -1 against a Houston team that I think has had some unsustainable shot making. I like the Cats -1.5.
Yeah, shout to Eddie Lampkin, then. What a fun player to watch. Just pure joy out there on the court. Kai, what are you seeing here?
I'm going Houston. Again, like Texas Tech, this is one of the best defensive teams in the country. I think they're top 10 on offense and defense, so both ends of the floor. And Kelvin Sampson, for my money, is the best coach in the country. I'm not sure any other coach could take his roster this season, losing 2 of its best players, and end up within a hair of the Elite 8 and be number 2 in KenPom. It's truly impressive. Houston's interior defense is locked down. Arizona's bigs are not going to get what they want down there. They're going to be forced into poor shot selection. Their backcourt, we know these guards like to take bad, tough shots. They can make them, but I'm not trusting that against this Houston team. Like I said, fantastic defense, fantastic coach. I like Houston.
Jim, it's up to you guys. We're all in unison last game. It's up to you to break the tie here. Where you headed?
I'm not breaking it. I can't figure out the side in this game. I've had a hard time. I've gone back and forth. I think Matt's point about like you can look at it from 2 different lenses is pretty fair, and that's the issue I've had trying to break this one down. I'm going with something, Stuckey, you kind of sold me on when we recorded our BBOC pod. I'm going with the first half under. I think I don't want to swipe all your points here, but I think Arizona will need to go bigger because of what they saw against TCU, giving up 20 offensive rebounds. And then I think Houston's really going to try to turn the game into a grind. They want it to be a half-court game. They know what Arizona is capable of in transition. So I think they're going to try to slow it down. I'm scared of overtime. I'm scared of free throws. So first half under 68.5. That's what I'm locking in.
Yeah, I'll be on the first half under as well, in addition to the full game under. Look, I'm going to Duke under and Arizona under. It's going to end in disaster. I mean, when's the last time in Arizona? I think maybe they've gone over 8 of 9. But different animal here playing the Houston defense, and I trust in Kelvin Sampson to slow this down. Obviously, a huge pace clash here. Arizona's a speed racer. Houston, an absolute snail, wants to just make the game into a half-court grinder, which I think they'll do. And what you brought up, they just played, a couple of you guys brought up the TCU game. And it's okay, is Arizona going to get exposed there, or are they going to adjust? I happen to think the latter. They're going to go a little bigger, and that means that, okay, Houston won't get as many easy putbacks, offensive rebounds, but that'll also hinder Arizona in transition the other way. If they don't, Houston's going to live on the offensive glass, and then, that will obviously hinder Arizona in transition as well. The wild card here is, like Kriisa shooting a bunch of threes. I assume Houston's going to force Arizona into a bunch of threes. If they're falling, this is probably toast, but I trust in Houston and their defense here. The Arizona adjustments, I think that the possessions come a little under the projection here. And as long as we can avoid overtime and late fouls, which is why I like some of the first half under as well, I think this game goes under. All right, that'll do it for us at Big Bets on Campus Live. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll talk all 4 Friday night Sweet 16 games. Thanks to the guys from the 3-Man Weave for joining me. Good luck on all of your wagers tonight, and we will see you tomorrow.